I was standing in our living room, one hand resting on my 7-month belly, watching the golden afternoon light pour through the windows. Everything felt perfect. 3 years of marriage to Derek, the man I had loved since college, and finally, after 2 years of trying, we were about to become parents. I thought this would be the most beautiful chapter of my life. I thought wrong. I never imagined that a woman from his past would destroy everything with a single lie, and the man I trusted most would turn his back on me faster than I ever thought possible. Before we dive into this story, I would love to know where you are watching from today. Drop your location in the comments below, and if you have not already, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. What happened next changed my entire life, and I need to take you back to where it all started to fall apart. Derek and I met in our sophomore year of college. We were both enrolled in the same English literature class, tucked away in a corner of the humanities building every Tuesday and Thursday afternoon. He was not like the other guys who tried too hard to impress everyone. Derek was quiet, thoughtful, always carrying a worn paperback in his back pocket. While everyone else was loud and competing for attention, he sat in the third row, taking careful notes, occasionally pushing his glasses up his nose. I found myself drawn to his calmness, his steady presence in a world that always felt too chaotic. We started talking after class one day when we both reached for the last copy of a Hemingway novel at the campus bookstore. He let me have it, and I invited him for coffee as a thank you. That coffee turned into dinner turned into walks around campus, and before I knew it, 4 years had passed, and he was getting down on one knee in the same spot where we had first shared coffee. Our wedding was small, intimate, held in his parents' backyard with just close family and friends. I wore my mother's vintage dress, and Derek cried when he saw me walking toward him. Those were happy tears, the kind that made me believe we would face anything together. The first 3 years of marriage were good. Not perfect, because no marriage is but good in the way that matters. Derek worked as a software engineer at a tech company downtown. I taught 3rd grade at an elementary school about 15 minutes from our house. We were not wealthy, but we had enough. We had each other. What we did not have, despite 2 years of trying, was a baby. I remember the countless negative pregnancy tests, each one feeling like a personal failure. I cried so many nights wondering if something was wrong with me, if my body was somehow betraying us. Derek would hold me through those tears, whispering that he loved me no matter what, that we would figure it out together, that a baby was not the only thing that could make our family complete. When I finally saw those 2 pink lines, I screamed so loud that Derek came running from the garage, thinking something was wrong. When I showed him the test, he stared at it for a full minute before tears started streaming down his face. In 7 years together, I had only seen him cry twice. That was the second time. Now let me tell you about my family because it matters for what comes later. My parents divorced when I was 12. It was not a dramatic split, just 2 people who had grown apart and decided it was better to separate than to keep pretending. My mother remarried when I was 15. Her new husband, Richard, was a kind man, a widower with a son of his own. That son was Marcus. Marcus was 3 years older than me. When our parents first got married, we were like strangers forced to share a dinner table. He was 18, about to leave for college, and I was 15, still figuring out who I was. We barely spoke those first few years. But time has a way of changing things. As we both grew older, Marcus and I became close. Really close. He became the older brother I never had, the one who showed up when I needed someone, who called to check on me during tough times, who drove 4 hours to be there when I graduated from college. Marcus became a doctor, an emergency room physician at a hospital 2 cities away. He was busy, but he made time to visit every month or so. When I told him I was pregnant, he was the first person I called after Derek. He whooped so loud through the phone that I had to hold it away from my ear. Derek liked Marcus too. They would watch football together, go fishing on occasional weekends. Derek once told me Marcus was the best brother-in-law a guy could ask for. I am telling you all this because you need to understand how solid everything felt, how unshakable I believed our foundation was. Then Tanya appeared. I knew about Tanya. Derek had dated her for 2 years before we met. Their relationship ended when she cheated on him with his best friend at the time. It was a wound that took him a long time to heal from. He rarely spoke about her, only mentioning once that it was a dark period he preferred to forget. I never met Tanya. Never wanted to. She was simply a name attached to his past, nothing more. One afternoon when I was about 6 months pregnant, I received a message request on Facebook from an account I did not recognize. The profile picture showed a woman with sharp features and platinum blonde hair. Her name was Tanya Morrison. The message was short. She said she had something important to tell me, something I needed to know about Derek. She wanted to meet in person. My stomach turned, and it was not the baby kicking. I decided not to respond. Instead, I showed the message to Derek that evening. His face darkened immediately. He said Tanya was unstable, that she had never fully accepted their breakup, and that I should ignore her completely. Delete the message, he said. Do not give her the satisfaction of a response. I trusted him. I deleted the message and tried to forget about it. Looking back, I realized that was my first mistake. Not because I should have met with her, but because I underestimated how far she was willing to go. 2 weeks after I deleted that message, I started noticing changes in Derek. At first, they were subtle. He would come home from work and seem distracted, his mind somewhere far away, even when he was sitting right next to me. He started checking his phone more frequently, angling the screen away from me. When I asked if everything was okay, he blamed it on work stress. A big project, he said. Tight deadlines. I wanted to believe him. I was 7 months pregnant, exhausted, and the last thing I needed was to add suspicion to my growing list of worries. So I pushed the uneasy feelings aside. One evening, I walked into the kitchen while Derek was at the counter scrolling through his phone. When he heard my footsteps, he quickly swiped something away and locked the screen. I asked who he was texting. He said it was just spam, nothing important. I did not push it. I wish I had. A few days later, I received a phone call from my mother-in-law, Patricia. We had always had a cordial relationship, though never warm. She was polite to me, but I always sensed she believed Derek could have done better. Still, her calls were usually friendly enough. This one was different. Her voice was cold-clipped. She asked me a question that seemed to come from nowhere. She wanted to know how often Marcus came to visit our house. I was confused. I told her Marcus came by once or twice a month, sometimes less, the same as always. Why was she asking? She went silent for a moment, then simply said she was just curious. Then she hung up. That night I decided to confront Derek directly. I told him about his mother's strange phone call, about the way he had been acting, about the message he had deleted. I asked him what was going on. He avoided my eyes at first, moving around the kitchen like he was looking for something to do with his hands. Then he stopped, turned to face me, and asked a question that made my blood run cold. He asked if there was anything I wanted to tell him about Marcus. I stared at him, genuinely confused. I asked what he meant. The look in his eyes was something I had never seen before. It was suspicion mixed with hurt, like he was looking at a stranger instead of his wife. He told me that Tanya had been in contact with him. She had sent him evidence, he called it, that I was having an affair with Marcus. According to him, she had photos of Marcus and me together, text messages between us that were inappropriate, and even a witness who claimed to have seen Marcus coming to our house while Derek was away on business trips. I felt like the floor had dropped out from under me. I tried to explain. The photo she sent was from when Marcus picked me up at the airport last year after a teaching conference. It was an innocent hug between siblings. The text messages had to be fabricated because I had never sent anything inappropriate to Marcus in my life. And yes, Marcus had come to the house when Derek was traveling, but only because I had gotten sick and needed someone to bring me medicine. Derek knew about that. I had called him that very night. Derek shook his head. He said Tanya had a witness, a former neighbor, who saw Marcus coming and going. He said the messages looked real. I was crying by then, my voice breaking as I tried to make him understand. I begged him to look at me to see the truth in my eyes. I had never been unfaithful. I had never even thought about it. Then he asked the question that shattered something inside me. He asked if the baby was his. I could not speak. I could not breathe. 7 years together, and he was asking me if I had been carrying another man's child. I told him yes, the baby was his. Of course the baby was his. I had never been with anyone else. He said he needed time to think. Then he walked out of the house. I did not see him for 3 days. He did not answer my calls or respond to my texts. I called Marcus sobbing and told him everything. He was furious, ready to drive down immediately and confront Derek. I begged him not to. I was afraid it would only make things worse. While Derek was gone, Patricia called again. This time she did not hold back. She told me she always knew I was not good enough for her son. She said Tanya had shown her everything and she believed every word of it. She called me names I will not repeat here. I hung up on her and cried until I had no tears left. Derek came back after a week. He walked through the front door like a ghost, pale and distant. He told me he had thought about everything. He said he could not go on like this, not knowing the truth. He wanted a DNA test as soon as the baby was born. If the baby was not his, he would file for divorce. I agreed to the test without hesitation. I knew the truth. The baby was his. I had nothing to hide. But I also told him something that surprised even me. I said that even when the test proved him wrong, I did not know if we could ever go back to what we had. His doubt had broken something between us. The fact that he believed a woman who had betrayed him over his own wife had created a crack that might never heal. He did not respond. He just moved his things to the guest room. The last 2 months of my pregnancy were the loneliest of my life. Derek lived in the same house, but he was a stranger. He did not ask how I was feeling. He did not come to my doctor appointments. He did not touch my belly to feel our daughter kick. One afternoon, I nearly fainted at the hospital during a routine checkup. My iron levels were dangerously low. The nurses asked if there was someone they should call. I gave them my mother's number instead of Derek's. When my labor started, it was complicated. The baby was in distress, and the doctors decided on an emergency cesarean section. I was terrified alone in that cold operating room, wishing Derek was holding my hand. He was at the hospital, but he did not come into the delivery room. He waited in the hallway. My daughter Lily was born at 3:47 a.m., weighing 6 pounds and 8 ounces. She had a full head of dark hair and the tiniest fingers I had ever seen. When I woke up from the anesthesia groggy and in pain, the first thing I saw was my mother sitting beside me holding Lily and crying softly. Derek was not there. A week later, the DNA results came back. Lily was Derek's biological daughter. A 99.99% match. I thought that would be the end of it. Finally proof. Finally vindication. But when Derek looked at those results, his reaction was not what I expected. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said that maybe he was wrong about the baby. But he still was not sure about me and Marcus. Maybe the affair happened before I got pregnant. I stared at him in disbelief. Even with scientific proof in his hands, he could not let go of his suspicion. Tanya had planted seeds of doubt so deep that no evidence could uproot them. That was when I understood something painful but important. Derek did not distrust me because of the evidence. He distrusted me because he had chosen to. He had decided to believe his ex over his wife, and no amount of proof would change that. I told him quietly that he had chosen to believe a woman who once betrayed him over the wife who had stood by him for 7 years. That was his choice to make. 2 weeks later, Derek filed for divorce. The papers cited irreconcilable differences. I did not fight it. I signed everything. During the proceedings, I requested full custody of Lily. Derek did not contest it. He said he needed time to figure out his relationship with the baby. The court granted me sole custody. Derek was given visitation rights. He never used them. Not once. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, Marcus called me with news that changed everything. He had hired a private investigator to look into Tanya. What the investigator found was damning. Tanya had planned the entire thing. She had never gotten over Derek leaving her. When she found out he was married and expecting a child, something in her snapped. She fabricated everything. The photos were edited using software. The text messages were created from scratch, never actually sent from my phone. The witness, the supposed neighbor, was actually a friend of Tanya's who had been paid to lie. It was all fake. Every single piece of evidence Derek had believed was a carefully constructed lie. Marcus asked if I wanted to send the investigator's report to Derek. I thought about it for a long time. Part of me wanted him to know the truth, to see how badly he had been manipulated, to feel the weight of what he had done to our family. But a larger part of me realized it did not matter anymore. I told Marcus no. I said Derek had his chance to believe me. He had looked me in the eyes and chosen suspicion over trust. I did not need him to believe me now. That night I cried for the last time over Derek. Not because I missed him, but because I was finally letting go. 3 years passed. Lily and I built a life together in a small apartment near the school where I taught. It was not fancy, but it was ours. I painted her room a soft lavender because she loved purple. I hung pictures of butterflies on the walls because she was fascinated by them. Lily grew into the most wonderful little girl. She was curious about everything, always asking questions, always wanting to know how things worked. She had Derek's eyes, dark and thoughtful, but her smile was all mine, wide and unguarded. The first year after the divorce was brutal. I was learning how to be a single mother while also trying to heal from the deepest betrayal I had ever experienced. Some nights after Lily was asleep, I would sit on the kitchen floor and cry. But I also started therapy. My therapist helped me understand that Derek's inability to trust me was not my failure. It was his. I had done nothing wrong. I had been a faithful wife, and his choice to believe lies said more about his wounds than about my character. I joined a support group for single mothers in my community. Those women became my lifeline. We shared meals, watched each other's kids, celebrated small victories together. They reminded me that I was not alone. Slowly, I learned to love myself again. I started running every morning before Lily woke up, just me and the quiet streets. I began journaling, pouring out thoughts I could not say out loud. I rediscovered old hobbies I had abandoned during my marriage. I did not date, not because I was afraid, but because I wanted to pour all my energy into Lily and into healing. There would be time for love later if it came. Then one afternoon, everything changed again. I was picking Lily up from daycare when I noticed a familiar car parked in front of our apartment building. My heart stopped. Derek stepped out of the car. He looked older, more worn. There were lines around his eyes that had not been there 3 years ago. His shoulders seemed to carry an invisible weight. He said he needed to talk to me. He said he had learned the truth about Tanya. Someone had sent him the investigator's report. He finally knew everything she had done. He apologized. He said he had been stupid, blind, manipulated. He said losing me was the biggest mistake of his life. Then he said he wanted to come back. He wanted to be part of Lily's life. He wanted to try again with me. I let him finish. I did not interrupt. Then I asked him a question. I asked where he had been for 3 years. I reminded him that he knew where his daughter lived. He had visitation rights. He could have called, could have visited, could have sent a birthday card. But he chose to stay away. For 3 years. He did not have an answer. I told him that 3 years ago I would have done anything to save our marriage. I had begged him to believe me. I had cried and pleaded. He had walked away anyway. Now things were different. I had rebuilt my life from the ashes of what he destroyed. I had proven to myself that I was worthy of love and trust, even if he could not see it. Lily did not know him. She had never asked about her father because I had given her enough love for 2 parents. She was happy, healthy, thriving. I would not let a stranger disrupt that. Then I told him the bad news he never expected to hear. I explained that 1 year ago I had petitioned the court to terminate his parental rights. Because he had abandoned his visitation for over 2 years without any contact or support, the court had granted my request. Legally, he was no longer Lily's father. He had no rights to her anymore. His face went pale. He started to protest, to beg, to promise he would change. I remained calm. I told him that he had made his choice 3 years ago when he walked away from his daughter. Now he had to live with the consequences. He left that day. He sent a few messages in the weeks that followed, but I did not respond. Eventually, he stopped trying. I do not hate Derek. Hatred takes too much energy, and I have better things to spend mine on. But I also do not owe him forgiveness or reconciliation. Some doors once closed are meant to stay closed. I have learned something important through all of this. Not everyone who loves you will believe in you. And when someone chooses doubt over trust, it reveals who they really are. Derek chose to believe a bitter ex over the woman who had stood by him for nearly a decade. That choice was not about me. It was about his own fears, his own wounds, his own inability to trust. I used to think losing him was losing everything. But it turned out that losing him was how I found myself. If you are going through something similar, if someone you love has chosen to doubt you, despite everything, I want you to know this. The truth is the truth, whether anyone believes it or not. Your job is not to convince the world. Your job is to live with integrity and to protect your peace. Some people will never see your worth. That is their loss, not yours. I want to ask you something. Have you ever had someone close to you believe a lie about you? How did you handle it? Share your story in the comments below. I read every single one. If this story touched you, please give it a like and share it with someone who might need to hear it. Subscribe to the channel if you have not already, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a new story. Thank you for being here with me today. I hope wherever you are, you know that you deserve to be believed, to be trusted, and to be loved without conditions. Take care of yourself, and I will see you in the next one.